the radar in the court.
Okay. And I'm hearing saying kabaddi, kabaddi, kabaddi.
Yeah, it's a rule. It's a rule in kabaddi. If you are going to raid, you have to chant. You have to say kabaddi, kabaddi, kabaddi. If you lose your breath, then you're out of raid. Yeah.
So one more raid.
One more raid.
Then we can come back to you, Captain.
Okay, that's a toe touch, though he did not get a point. That's a kick. And that was a touch point. If you manage to get a touch point, it's a point for the raider. Yeah, it is that simple. It is that simple.
So basically, ideally, it's either they stop him or he taps and runs away.
And runs away, yeah.
All right, thank you very much. You can just move back there. You've seen kabaddi and how it works. Yeah. So it's basically simply you've got this, those who are defending, and they've got that. Make sure they don't stop. So let's talk about the African Championships. The SG has mentioned, 9 nations coming through. Take us through the group phase and also eventually playing against Uganda in the final, 44-23.
Yeah, okay. About the African Championship, it was one of the the second championship in Africa, and it was acting as a qualifier to the World Cup. The position 1 and position 2 was going to qualify to the World Cup, and we thank God we managed to become the first. Yeah.
So just take us through the team, the competitions eventually until you played Uganda, because it's been mentioned that Uganda no pushovers, or do the scores look deceptive?
No. Let me interject. The scores are not deceptive. There were
44-23.
Yes,
that is basically you outscored them 1-2, 2-1.
Yes. So there were 2 pools, and in our pool, of course, we walked tall. We managed to beat all the other teams, and we qualified for the semis. And after the semi-finals, that's when we qualified for the finals. Yeah. So it was not a walk in the path. We were really challenged with our opponents.
And Daniel, let me come to you. This competition that you saw in Africa, what has been the change over the years that you see?
Well, it's clear that there's a very big improvement. The first African Championship, we were having few African teams, but this championship, African Championship that we just concluded last week, we were having 9 teams, and most of the teams did improve so much.
And coming into this competition of the Bangabandhu Cup, where Kenya finished joined that with Thailand, how do you see the Bangabandhu Cup eventually? Because it was a close one with Nepal. Yeah. When you got to the semis, just take us through that and the lessons learned.
Well, Bangabandhu Cup, it's not that easy like the African Championship. In Bangabandhu Cup, we have very many strong teams. They started kabaddi way long ago, before we started kabaddi. So we were rated as the underdogs, but we managed to win 5 matches and lose in the semi-finals against Nepal. Yeah. So
close. Now take us through this, because you were at 50-50, and there was a 9. How that tie was broken then, so that people understand how eventually it was reported as 59-55.
Well, it was I think that was the most difficult match in the whole tournament. Before we started the match, I think my team, we underrated the opponent, but they had a little raider, and they had only one little raider who managed to bag all the points for Nepal. So before during the last raids, we had our raider who did the last raid, but he did not manage to get the point. That's where we got the tie. And because they needed to get the winner so that you can proceed to the finals, we had to go for the golden raids. The golden raids, they pick five raiders from each team. Then each raider has to, if you don't get a point, you go back. But if they catch you in the opponent's court, you still won't go out. You'll just come back to your court and defend. Then after that, after the 5 raids, we did not manage to. We lost. We did not manage to. How can I say it? We did not manage to win.
To win.
Yeah.
So Nepal got the raids
Yeah.
You lost half of them.
Yeah, before that, we were 50-50. Then in the golden race, that's where they managed to get all the points. Yeah.
So, SG, let me
Yes.
come now with this kind of success, you know,
Yes.
the kind of trophies that we're seeing on display here. How then is this game picking up? Because the first thing that, you know, the name itself, Kabaddi, sounds like a funny, the name sounds funny.
Yes.
In as much as it is from, you know, from Asia.
Yes.
How is it picking up in the country from the league season that you've had and as you prepare for this?
So actually, to pick up from what my captain has stated, when you make comparisons of the last African Championship and then you also make reference to the Bangabadu Cup 2024 edition and our league, there's so much of technical improvement. We can probably say that the trajectory on a graphical display, our improvement is 98% technically. Why am I saying so? Some of our retired players right now are coaches. We are able to contribute to the international pool, some referees and umpires. We are having so many players. In fact, getting some of the players to the national team, there's no guarantee. Even some of them who are displaying themselves here, if you are lazy for a minute or two, there's so much competition. There are so many players who are willing to come through and play. There's so much improvement. So we've had our second league after the last league, and the numbers have improved. The universities, the disciplined forces, the uniformed officers, so many people want to become part of the conversation. Initially we were playing outside on the hard field, on grass, but you know, this sort of kabaddi which we play, it's either played on the beach or at the mat. So at least we can comfortably afford some mats and now start giving out some of the old used ones. We didn't have the luxury of that initially. So small improvements, but big celebrations on the achievements that we are having. Also, just to mention, without forgetting, the KICD, the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, had initially input kabaddi to be one of the sports or games which ought to have been played at the secondary levels. I have not checked the curriculum again to see if it's still featuring existing, but my hope is that it has not been interfered. Okay. And the high schools, we are now supposed, some of the players here are going to be our ambassadors. They are going to teach the sport to secondary schools. And importantly, lastly, but not least, some of our players, national team players who were not part of these African championships are already outside within the continent coaching. Somebody was coaching in Rwanda?
And in Malawi.
Rwanda and Malawi. They're already calling us. So you see, we are a great example to the African continent.
Well, we know what happens when Kenyans go and coach outside. They come and beat you. I can mention two sports. I'll mention them now. Cricket is one of them. Yeah. You can imagine TZ and Uganda beating Kenya in cricket. Yes. Kenyan coaches. So opportunities for players abroad. We've seen players go to India mainly, do professional contracts or even short-term professional contracts. What are the opportunities for anybody who's in Kabaddi, Captain?
Well, what I can say is, actually I'm one of the players playing in professional league. Okay, opportunities, if you, how can I put it? Okay, there are a lot of opportunities in Kabaddi. Huh? No, there are a lot of opportunities in Kabaddi, only if you put hard work, just as he said. Because if you're lazing around, then somebody will grab the opportunity. So I think so far Kabaddi has very many opportunities, and one of them is we always have a chance to represent in the professional league. Like the last season, we had 3 players who were representing in the professional league. Me being the first one, the second one was Wafula, and the third one was Elvic Simiu. Yeah, in the different teams.
SG, focus now shifts because I want them to get back because we'll be winding up, so we'll want to wind up with a demonstration of Kabaddi. Yes. And the radar, be louder enough. It was Kabaddi. Yeah. So the World Cup is next.
Yes.
The focus as you build up to that.
Yeah, so we are putting a lot of energies to prepare for the World Cup, but not at the expense of the growth of the game. When I say that, I mean that we are putting in some logistical plans to see that our league resumes, so that there can be a good supply of the players to the national team. We are also trying to call in to appeal to well-wishers, to sponsors, to come and partner us, because the minutes in studio are not enough to speak about our success story. So
the trophies are there. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Yeah.
If I just count the, over 10 trophies just being placed here, that's huge.
Yes, there are so more touching stories, of life-changing stories that we equally have about our players and some of our staff. So we want to appeal to several stakeholders, private and public, to come and partner us. It will be a great opportunity for some of these partners to have their logos, to have everything about them displayed at the international arena at the World Cup Forum that is slated for next year in Dubai. And we hope all will be well. We'll have an injury-free season. This game, you see, it's a physical contact sport. There are several, you can pick an injury without planning. We are hoping that there'll be a good medical regime to treat our players so that they can heal quickly. We are hoping that there'll be a lot of discipline. And you see, Mr. Wahome, most of our players are Gen Zs. So when the history of when the history of protecting Gen Zs is written in this country, or taking their interest is done, we as the Kenya Kabaddi Union will have a safe side. We'll take a safe side, because we've done our best, our level best, to facilitate and offer them an opportunity to showcase their talents. All right.
Thank you very much. Japheth Munyendo is the Secretary General Kabaddi Kenya. We've got the captain of the side, Daniel Omondi, and my name is Daniel Wahome. Coming up next is Kurunzi Mashinani, and followed by Tamrini. But as we go, Kabaddi, 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 Raider and defenders, why tusaidie kufunga kipindi.
We are in Lagos, Nigeria. And would you believe me if I told you that this country has over 300 ethnic groups? That's crazy to think about. And with that comes over 500 languages, making this one of the most diverse countries